The little things that you're doing. What is the philosophy? What's being spoken about in meetings? Coaches, the manager, you guys amongst yourselves, doing all these little things that really separate you from the competition.
I think what motivates that is knowing that there's a target on our back every single time we go and play. It doesn't matter who we play, whether it's the Pirates, the Marlins, or the Dodgers.
Got the Pirates coming up.
Yep. That they want to beat us because we're, the big bad Mets now, us and the Dodgers. We spend all this money, we buy our team, all that.
Welcome to Meet at the Apple, presented by PC Richard & Son. I'm Vito Calisi. That's Jonathan Barron. Want to take a moment to remind you guys to rate and review the podcast. Goes a really long way. Make sure to leave a review. That goes even further. You leave a cool review, leave a nice 5-star review. We'll read them on air, give you a shout out. And at the end of the episode, stick around because we will be playing an interview we recorded with Brandon Nimmo. So you're going to want to stick around with that. I'm sure Brandon Nimmo will come up throughout this episode. But John, really fun 3 days at Citi Field.
Yeah, I mean, we continue to learn about this Mets team as you do, as you navigate the early weeks of May. You get past that intro month to the season, which is April. There's some fool's gold and there's real gold in April. It's tough to decipher sometimes. They say Memorial Day is that you kind of get an idea. I think 75% of the time, if you're in a postseason spot on Memorial Day, you wind up making the postseason. And when you consider what's happening now, Mets 11 games over 500, and you look back to this time last year, hadn't even hit rock bottom yet. Francisco Lindor hits another home run on Sunday. This time last year, he did not move to the leadoff spot until May 18th. So we're still not even quite 1 year since that change. And Francisco has been one of the best players in baseball, value-wise on both sides of the ball. A fun weekend, like you said. The Mets prove again they can and will hang with the good teams because they are a good team. And I did some digging at looking at some numbers, and I think this is a very telling statistic. The Mets lose the middle game of this 3-game series. They win games 1 and 3. And they kind of won games 1 and 3 in easy fashion. At least those were the final scores. And game 2, the one they lost, another one-run game. The Mets at this very moment tied for the most one-run games played in all of baseball. And when you look at the margin of victory and the margin of defeat, the Mets' margin of victory this year is 3.5 runs per game. So when they win, they beat teams up. They're winning games that Edwin Diaz doesn't even necessarily need to come in, not a safe situation. When they lose, the margin of defeat is less than 2 runs. So, what we're seeing and what the eye test tells us, then when you cross-reference that with what I just told you guys, is that the Mets on Saturday was a frustrating game where they're down 4-0. Baty hits the home run. They get back in the game. They have chances. They don't come through with RISP. We know it happens. But when they win, they kind of put the foot on the necks of teams. And you want to see that. You want to see a team be able to win in dominating fashion and not get dominated. Can you think of one loss this year where you've been like, all right, I'm turning it off after the 6th inning?
No. We talked about this, I think, last week or the week before. There's only been 2 games this year where they weren't in it in the last at-bat of the game. I think it was that one game where Edwin Diaz came in where the lead was already away and then it got away from them. And then one game last week. But outside of that, they've been in every single moment of a game. And I said this last week, word for word, but that's all you can really ask for. And this team is just dominating in game 1 of every series. I mean, it feels like the thing to expect in game 1 is the Mets are going to put up 5+ runs.
Yeah, they set the tone, and especially here at Citi Field, which they did, in game 1 by hitting 4 home runs against Jameson Taillon. Carlos Mendoza stacking the lineup with lefties, and it paid off. You had the Baty home run. Lindor hits the leadoff home run. McNeil homers also for the Mets, and of course Juan Soto hits that mammoth shot to the bridge out there, it was
the Citi Pavilion / bridge.
Pavilion.
We're going to talk about that home run, but I want to tell you a funny thing about that home run.
Yeah.
I was walking to go get food. I'm walking the Shea Bridge. I hear the pop of the bat. I literally, John, look behind me, and I was like 20 feet from where the ball landed, but it's been so long since we saw guys hit home runs out there. Not to bring up somebody on a different team, but it reminded me of being here in 2012 and seeing Mike at the time, Stanton, hit home runs back there into the back of the corner.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, that was, that's that kind of picturesque moment that, we envisioned back in December when Juan Soto was introduced to the Mets faithful. But Yeah, like I said, the Mets take care of one of the best teams in baseball. The Cubs came into this series leading virtually in every category offensively. And the Mets did a great job, 28 strikeouts by Mets pitchers in this series. The bullpen does a good job. The starting pitchers do a good job. They lose a one-run game on Saturday. But other than that, I mean, the Mets really had a pretty soup-to-nuts weekend here. More strong defense, more good base running by the Mets. The power on display. The Mets have homered 11 times now in the last 4 games. So early on, the ball wasn't really carrying out of Citi Field. We saw that. We talked about that. Things starting to regress to the mean positively for the Mets in the power department. And again, it's a new guy every day. The third baseman for the Mets, Brett Baty, hitting 2 home runs on Saturday, the home run on Friday, and on Sunday, Mark Vientos getting to start against Matthew Boyd, the southpaw. He hits a home run that puts the Mets up at the time. So it's just been a collaborative effort. And, like Brandon Nimmo said, and you guys will hear shortly, the Mets are the big dogs in the National League. They really are. And, I know that everyone will talk about, you spend all this money, but when you look at the guys that are getting it done for the Mets, is it really about spending the money or is it about developing? Is it about, let's talk about Brett Baty. Let's talk about Brett Baty.
I mean, look, this Brett Baty is a guy that he's had those moments where he struggled at the major league level, been sent down. And what sucks is this was the first time in Brett Baty's career where he got sent down because of a roster move, because of roster management. It had nothing to do with him struggling at that point. At that point, he was starting to heat up and things were starting to look a lot better for Brett. But the roster is the way it is. Jeff's coming back. Alvy's coming back. You got to make you got to make those tough decisions. Brett comes back up, and just this weekend, you're seeing the Brett Baty that not just this organization, that this front office has seen, but the last 3 different front offices the Mets have all seen the same thing in Brett Baty. This is a legitimate major league player where the sky is the limit.
A couple things on Brett Baty for my 2 cents. Number one, we saw this with Mark Vientos, and it was around this time last year, maybe even a bit later. Vientos hit the walk-off against Matthew Liberatore on April 27th. He goes back down because Marte was coming back. He didn't come back, I think, until May 14th. He didn't really solidify himself until after 2 times up and down. It was really June. The Subway Series game when he hit 2 home runs against Garrett Cole. I think that was really when Mark Vientos had arrived. So still at this point, it hadn't even happened. Fans didn't think that Mark Vientos was going to be a guy that was going to hit 27 regular season home runs and then go on and break the Mets single postseason RBI record, which he did. So that's number one. Number two, we talked about this with other guys in the past. Make a player earn it. Make a dude hungry. Don't give a guy a job. When someone is complacent, it's easy as a human being psychologically to get a little comfortable. Brett Baty cannot be comfortable. Brett Baty has been up and down the last couple of years. Last year was a tough year for Brett Baty. We talked about that with him when we interviewed him in spring training. And he's as nice of a guy and humble as a guy as they come, and that's why it's so great to see him have the success. He was genuinely happy to see his friend Mark Vientos have the incredible success he did, although he wasn't having the success and they play the same position.
And we brought this up to Brett Baty in that interview. If you look at the history, if you look at their minor league history, it was just such a similar tale. Both guys barely got any AAA experience before they got their shot in the majors, go down to AAA. Mark Vientos went down to AAA, crushed for a year, comes up in 2024, absolutely dominates. Last year, Brett Baty goes down to AAA, and it just every night we were checking box scores, it looked like Brett Baty was going yard again. We see Brett Baty come up here, and what is he doing so far? He's off to a great start. So you're seeing these results. When a guy does well as Brett Baty did at AA and AAA, it's very rare that doesn't translate to the major league level.
Right. Well, you talk about the minor leagues. Remember, Brett Baty was kind of rushed through the minor leagues. He played, I think, all of 6 games at AAA after his promotion from AA before he was called up to the major leagues.
And Vientos was something like, I want to say like 16, it was some short number. It was some small number like that
Baty
as well.
played fewer numbers in the minor leagues than Mark Vientos had. So he was not given as much time as other guys are to marinate in the minor leagues. You talk about his numbers going back to before he was sent down when McNeil and Alvarez came back. Since April 16th, the Mets were in Minnesota. That was the Wednesday game in Minnesota. Then the Mets came home for the Cardinal series. You go back to that series since April 16th. Small sample size, I get it. But if you have a lower qualifier, which I'm about to say, you welcome more guys to the dance. So minimum 25 plate appearances. Brett Baty has the 4th highest OPS in Major League Baseball, an 1194 mark going back to April 16th. We're in the category of Aaron Judge. That's where we're at. That's how good Brett Baty has been. You think about the home run he hit against Zach Wheeler.
Yeah.
Back on, I think it was April 23rd, I think it was. That was the day game.
It was, because Easter was April 20th, and then that would have been 3 days later, yeah.
April 23rd. And it was a fastball that he hit, and he smoked it into the Coke corner. And you go back and you look at the at-bat, and it's how did he get his hands through the strike zone, get the barrel through the strike zone, and turn that pitch around, which not many guys do against a perennial Cy Young candidate? Well, it is because Brett Baty has elite bat speed. It is different how quickly he gets that barrel through the strike zone. And I'll put it into context. Out of out of guys with 100 swings in the National League this season, Brett Baty has the 6th fastest bat speed of anybody, average miles an hour. 96th percentile. The only guys ahead of him are O'Neal Cruz of the Pirates, who could be a problem this week. O'Neal's having a great season as the Pirates come to Citi Field. Jordan Walker, Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Schwarber, Pete Alonso, and Brett Baty. That's the top 6 in the National League. That is the company that Brett Baty is in with his raw abilities. And I'll admit it, I didn't see the home run on Friday. I was walking around the stadium. I popped back into the bowl. I see it's 2-0, and I'm like, wait, did he hit a home run? I'm told not only did he homer, Oppo Boppo against Jamison Tyone. And then on Saturday, the second home run, another opposite field home run. And he had a chance with the runner on second. I think it was the 6th or 7th inning. He had a line drive right at the left fielder. But 3 hard hit balls in that game. All 3 swings that he put balls in play on were 79 miles an hour or faster. Brett Baty is equipped. Put this camera, right? Ready? Brett Baty is equipped to be a superstar in Major League Baseball. Don't get it twisted. You don't see those numbers. He is equipped to be a superstar. And I think we're seeing it come to fruition.
It sucks that Saturday was a loss because Brett Baty has the 2 home run game. And also, you finally got to see that core of young Mets players all in the lineup at the same time that you've kind of been like salivating over the idea of having Alvy at the dish, having Brett Baty at third base, Mark Vientos DHing, Acuña over at second. Like, it was the thing that we've dreamed about as Mets fans, of having this young core just taking over a game. And then when Brett Baty's putting the team on his back and they almost get it done. Look, sometimes you lose those games. Juan Soto has had a 2 home run game this year, a week ago, where they lost that game. It happens sometimes, but it's so good to see. I actually had to leave the game early last night to get home to deal with something. And I'm watching the game, and I'm not kidding. I literally leave my phone. I wife and I go, this is about to be the Brett Baty 2 home run game. Goes yard. I go nuts.
It's a fun team. I want to talk about Friday real quick. Back to Friday. The Mets had 13 hits. 12 of those 13 hits came in 2 strike counts. You talked about the 3-0 count Lindor had. I think it was 3. I think it was 3 when he hit the homer. But you talk about the counts. 12 2-strike hits. The most by any Mets team in a single game as far as we can go back with that data. Elias says 2000. Balls and strikes get a little iffy when you get back into the 70s. Obviously, in today's game, it's very, very buttoned up, and we could tell for sure. Tied for the most 2-strike hits by any team in a game this year. The most by a Mets team, as far as we can go back, the furthest I saw was 1975. So almost all of Mets history. That is an impressive mark. If you guys go back and you look last 10 seasons, let's say, top 5 teams in baseball, 2-strike hitting, you look at those teams, they're teams that are winning divisions, winning pennants, and winning World Series. Not striking out, the name of the game. The Mets don't strike out much. Their arms generate a lot of strikeouts. Their arms generate a lot of ground balls. The Mets don't hit a lot of ground balls. The Mets run the bases well. They play defense well. Now they're hitting for power. Just all of these things that a good team does. You add 2-strike hitting to it. That's how you're a juggernaut. When you got guys like Brett Baty, fans are thinking to themselves, well, what are we going to do when Winker comes back? And, we got, where's the room? You know who asks the question, where's the room? Good teams ask the question, where's the room?
Dude, in the booth today, we were talking, where's the room? Because, this rotation has been so solid, and you have 2 guys making their way back soon. Where's the room? I mean, it is a crazy thing to be in right now, and I think it's a perfect time that we should talk about the pitching because we'll start off talking about the birthday boy, Griffin Canning.
Cake. Oh, we're gonna get taken down for that.
No, that's fine. I don't even care anymore.
No, you usually yell at me when I start.
Yeah, I
singing
know, but
songs.
like, I just at this point, it's like, what's gonna happen? Like
They're gonna take our video down. Is what's gonna happen.
Are they going to? If we just like, if you sing a few seconds of a song, like me,
I don't know. How good's the AI?
That's the problem. It's the better.
Not a human.
It's not a human. No, it's not somebody sitting there watching like, oh, John DeVito put in another meat of the apple today. I wonder if John's sang. But Griffin Canning put another just gem out. 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, only a single run. It's Griffin Canning, and I think I said this to you in the last episode. There's nothing I love more than Griffin Canning getting game 3 in a series, because Griffin Canning is a cerebral guy like Clay Holmes is, and I feel like Griffin Canning is the kind of guy who watches every single at bat leading up to his game and is taking notes and is thinking about how he's going to attack guys. And yeah, man, it's crazy to see what Jeremy Hefner, Eric Yeagers, Desi Druschel, what all of these guys have been able to do with another free agent acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think people forget that Griffin Canning was a second-round pick. Early in his career, he had a lot of success. You know, he pitched on an Angels team in 2024 that did not have a lot of success. He 8 innings. He took the ball every 5 days. He doesn't really spend much time on the injured list. So the counting stats were not very pretty, if you would. But I like what you said. When he gets to watch and formulate a game plan by seeing how 1 or 2 starters before him attack a lineup, I think that he pitches backwards based on what a team might be expecting him to be doing. On Sunday, 5 whiffs on 11 swings against the changeup. The Cubs went 0 for 7 against the changeup, but he also had success with a 4-seamer. He's locating it well. He's throwing it up in the strike zone, and then he tunnels the slider off of the 4-seamer, and the changeup down and away to lefties. He got Kyle Tucker, one of the best hitters in baseball, who's going to get a big payday as an impending free agent this upcoming offseason. Made him look silly with a changeup. And the cutter. Griffin Canning is a tough guy to game plan against because he can beat you in so many ways. And just when you think you have him figured out, he's going to zag when you think he's going to zig, if that makes sense. And with the start he had on his birthday, Vito, 6 innings, 1 run allowed, he is just the 4th pitcher in Mets history to enjoy such a start, at least 6 innings pitched, or 1 or no runs allowed on a guy's birthday. David Peterson did it last year against the Red Sox on September 3rd.
8 or 11?
11 strikeouts.
11 strikeouts.
Max Scherzer did it a couple years ago for the Mets, and Ron Darling. And Griffin Canning today. That's it. So anytime you could be in, an exclusive club like that, I know it's kind of random on the birthday.
Yeah, it's fun.
It pops up, but Canning's cake, baby. Canning's cake.
Yeah, Griffin Canning, absolute dog. Only blemish on the day, giving up a home run to PCA, which... This is a question I had for you.
Yeah.
Your opinion. Can you believe how long it took them to move Pete Crow Armstrong to the leadoff spot?
No, because I think that when you put a guy at the top of the lineup, you're inciting a bit more pressure on him. Also, Ian Happ is the Cubs leadoff hitter. He didn't play in the series, so I think that's really part of it as well. That it's nice when you have the pressure off a guy in the 6 hole and you have a deeper lineup. I think that once you move him to the top, a guy might start to muscle up a little bit and think that he's got to do a little bit more. I couldn't believe. I mean, he ran himself right into the fence on the Luis Torrens triple.
Dude, watching him, look, it's tough watching him play the outfield because any ball that gets hit anywhere near center field, it's just going to get caught.
Yeah, except that one. Except the triple.
That one.
Yeah.
But the speed hunting, because like Luis Acuña ripped a ball that I was like, oh, that's going to hit the ground.
Yeah.
And then no, somehow Pete Crow Armstrong runs out of, it seems like 100 feet away.
No, look, he's a fun player. I said this after the Diamondback series. I'll say it again. Trades happen, 3-4 years later. Sometimes you win them, sometimes you lose them. The Mets give up Jared Kelenic. Everyone had a meltdown, myself included. I don't know how you felt about it, but anytime you trade a first-round pick, you're always rolling the dice, especially for an impending free agent like Javi Baez was at the time. But it doesn't matter, guys, because look at this roster. We're talking about how are we going to fit all these guys in the 26-man roster?
Where would he even be playing? Like, that's the thing. Who knows if he would have been up? Who knows if he wouldn't have gotten traded at 2022 at the deadline? There's so many butterfly effects, so many sliding doors that you could think of.
Right.
And I do have one beef to pick with the MLB social account.
Okay.
They played a game with Pete Crow Armstrong.
Who's, by the way, a great personality. Him showing up to spring training with the stars, the blue stars in his hair.
I thought he was going to have fun hair today. I was bummed that he didn't this whole weekend.
Him rounding the bases, showmanship at Citi Field.
He does do that on most of his home run trots.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's good for the game.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
But here's my beef. They had him identify famous moms. from movies.
Well, yeah, they didn't include his. I'm guessing.
They didn't include his mom from.
Well,
Little
he
Big
would know
League.
his own mom, obviously.
Yeah, but I thought the game was leading to like,
the
yeah,
payoff.
that's mom. They had him do Lois Griffin four times.
Four
They
times.
kept showing Lois Griffin over and over again. Which I'm guessing
must have been a bit that you
I'm
were
guessing
picking
it was
up
like
on.
mom, like that Family Guy bit.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
they did Lois Griffin, they did Liv Soprano from The Sopranos. He's never seen it. But I was just like,
He's never
what?
seen it?
He's never seen it.
You guys want to hear something bad? I guess no one's going to be surprised. But, I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah, but still, you don't watch anything.
Yeah, but I'm a proud Jersey guy.
Yeah, but you don't watch anything. Like somebody brought a movie up to you the other day and was shocked that you didn't know it. And I was just like, do you know who you're talking to right now?
I'm a proud Jersey guy, though.
It was like I tweeted a joke like a week or two ago where somebody made a Wedding Crashers joke, and then like I think Daniel Murphy made a Wedding Crashers joke to Gary Cohen, and he didn't know what it meant and moved on. And I was like, oh, that's my life. But what was funny, you responded, it was like one of the movies you didn't know.
Oh, Wedding Crashers. I've seen that. I've seen that one.
But look, like you said, man, like some trades go your way, some trades don't. Also, I feel like Mets fans forget Javi Baez that year. The Mets, he got traded here and went on an absolute heater, made himself a ton of money. That year didn't work out as far as some other positions on that team went, but it wasn't a bad trade at the time. In hindsight, any trade could be bad. But let's talk about Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes, Friday night, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, barely giving up any barrels, which is just the mantra of the Mets pitching staff. And he's off to a 5-1 start with a 2.74 ERA. Whispers, Clay Holmes is the Mets' number 3 starter.
Clay Holmes is just a starter, and he's a really good starter. He's a pitcher. He's a really good pitcher. He was a really good pitcher in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And, I've said this before on the show that if he gave up a run or two, but he gave it at the wrong time, then everyone's mad and the world's on fire. But if you're going out there and you're throwing 5-6 innings and you're allowing 1 or 2 runs and your team is giving you 4 or 5 and then you're turning it over to a really good bullpen, you did a great job.
You know what? But we talked to him the other day, and the one thing we didn't talk to him about, we talked to every closer. We talked to every reliever.
The difference
between the 9th inning and the rest of a game. And the one guy who's now like literally dealing with the transition from the 9th inning to the entire rest of the game, we didn't ask. And I'm sitting here now being like, why didn't we talk to him about that? You'll see that interview soon.
Just like Griffin Canning, he's a guy that keeps hitters off balance. And like he said in the interview, he is a guy who I think lets his body and his stuff talk to him and kind of dictate the kind of an outing that he's going to have and the way that he's going to attack opposing hitters, whether it be with the sweeper slider, whether it be a lot of kick change. Some starts he's made hasn't much kick change at all. We know it's a pitch he really throws to lefties, doesn't throw it to righties much. His sinker is one of the most powerful, dominating pitches in baseball, especially when it's on. We talked to him about if it's a little slippery or drier out there. His grip on the pitch varies, but he is as smart of a pitcher as they come. He has as dominant stuff as they come. And I don't think anyone should be surprised that Clay Holmes is off to the start he's off to between, first of all, he's an absolute mountain of a human being.
Yeah.
He is a mountain of a human. I didn't realize that Carson Kelly was having the kind of season that he was having. Miguel Amaya, the Cubs backup catcher on Saturday, coming up with a big 2-run single in the 8th inning. The Cubs have gotten incredible production out of that spot. Michael Busch continues to play well for the Cubs. Obviously, Pete Crow Armstrong and Kyle Tucker, Dansby Swanson, who strikes out a lot, but still hit a mammoth shot on Saturday night against Tyler McGill. This is a great lineup the Cubs have. It's why they rank where they do, and made them look foolish.
It's crazy that they were able to, like, the heater that Pete Crow Armstrong has been to start the season, and the Mets pretty much held him just silently up until Sunday afternoon. And even then, I'll take a solo home run. I'll take 1 solo home run, and that's the only offense they put. That's some of the only offense they put up in a game. It just shows you that this staff is able to put guys down really simply. Griffin Canning starting the game off just looking like he was walking through the park with striking out the side, looking dominant. I thought the rotation was going to be good. I didn't think that I was going to look at the probable pitchers and be like, okay, which games do I have to be seated at Citi Field for? Well, Griffin Canning's going on Sunday. That's a game that I need to be there for.
Yeah, there isn't a day where you're like, well, this is probably going to be.
There's no gimmies, no.
But that is why I don't like the term ace. I'd rather just have 5 or 6 guys who are always going to give me a chance to win. It's what David Stearns cultivated last year, and it's what he's cultivated this year. And there's more coming because you mentioned Montas and Minaya, who are both throwing, both rehabbing, both working their way back. there's also a couple guys in the minor leagues who I'm telling you guys, and I don't, no one's told me anything.
Well, I mean, it's time to, we got to bring it up that, I mean, if you pay attention to Mets minor league baseball, this was quite the weekend. I mean, not only did Nolan McLean just be Mr. Sevens, 7 strikeouts, 7 innings pitched,
7 hits,
7 hits also. But hey, numerology, who cares?
In his AAA debut.
And then Jonah Tong says, I'm not going to be shown up by that. Goes up the next day. It was a doubleheader. So in the minor leagues, it's a 7-inning doubleheader situation. Jonah Tong, 6 2/3 of perfect baseball.
20 up, 20 down, 13 strikeouts. Nolan McLean proved to the Mets he was too good for AA. So the Mets promoted him, and his first AAA outing, and we've talked to many guys, that jump is tough. And he faced Jacksonville, a really good team.
Yeah. 23-13, I think, when they played each other with Nolan on the mound. Like, that's a good team. They're not playing scrubs.
Dominated. Now Jonah Tong says, hey, I may or may not be a little bit too good for this league also. His strikeouts per 9 before the start was like 16. It's probably around 17 or 18 now in AA. I mean, these are just astronomically crazy numbers. And I'm not saying that these guys are going to pitch in the majors this year.
It has to be talked about.
All I'm saying is there's more coming. And then, of course, you got Brandon Sproat. Blade Tidwell was the first of this crop to make the jump to the major leagues. Dom Hamill is off to a good start since returning from injury.
And John, have you ever seen this before? And I would love to go look at other teams just throughout history where you say, like, there's times where a major league roster, you say, oh, there's no room for this guy in the major league roster right now, right? How many can say, oh, there's no room for this player on the AAA roster right now? Like, we have too many guys at AAA right now. Jonah Tong is being held up because AAA is stacked right now.
There is, in a way, some sort of an organizational backlog because of how much talent the Mets have, and it goes to some positions as well. I mean, there are some guys, with the Cyclones. The guys haven't caught on to Cyclone baseball yet. This is one of the best teams in minor league baseball, and obviously I'm not comparing them to a AAA team, but pound for pound with the level that they're at, that lineup is incredible. It's so much fun. The weather's getting warmer. We are going to Maimonides, and we're not going as employees. We're going for fun. I want to see Carson Benj. I want to see Jacob Reimer. I want to see Jonathan Santucci out of Duke, his southpaw. Like this, AJ Ewing. This Marco Vargas is there now. This is a stacked system, guys.
Which is crazy because when the lineups first dropped for all the levels, the one that blew me away the most was Binghamton. Like, when you looked at the Binghamton lineup, you were like, this is like most of the top prospects in the system.
Chet Williams is having a great May. Ryan Clifford's turned it around after a slow start.
So it's just like every single level of Mets baseball right now is firing on all cylinders. And this is a message, whoever runs the MILB TV app, I really wish we could get a quad cam.
Quad box,
A quad box that you could watch all levels at the same time.
Yeah.
Like the way that you have it for the major league side where you can watch a few games at once. I would love to be able to just have all 4 games on like one iPad. It would make my life so much easier.
No, that's a good call. It's a good call.
But you know what? Do you think we should get to the top 5 now? Because it is Mother's Day, so we got to start wrapping this episode up.
Let's do it.
All right, top 5 moments presented by PC Richard and Son. All right, top 5 moments, Mets Cubs. This was the hardest top 5 we've ever had to do. I'm not kidding. There were, I think there was like 11 moments in total when we were running down this list.
And a bit of debate.
We actually did sit here for the first time because usually it's like pretty easy to pick 5 top moments.
Not this time.
Week, no shot. So the number 5 moment of Mets Cubs, Brett Baty's 2 home run game in game 2. Although it resulted in a loss, seeing Brett Baty be able to put some power behind the ball and make it known Brett Baty is a legitimate major leaguer, absolutely electric. Number 5.
1 homer to right field, 1 homer to left field, accounting for all 5 Mets runs in that game. Brett Baty, like we mentioned before, he is here. The number 4 moment of Mets Cubs, Juan Soto's mammoth 434-foot home run in game 1 of the series. Absolute scenes. He stands at the plate. The lights are going. We got the strobes flashing here at Citi Field. The Ranger goal song is playing. I know a lot of people had feelings about that, whether they were positive or negative. You decide. But what a moment for Juan Soto, who, as of Sunday, leads Major League Baseball in home runs in the month of May, adding to his ledger with a titanic shot.
And you don't see home runs back there that much anymore. We've not seen a home run back there in a while. That thing went so far over that if the Lotto special was still happening, it skipped right over it. Number 3 moment, game 1, Francisco Lindor hits another leadoff home run. Francisco Lindor is coming for Kyle Schwarber's record from last year.
Yeah, I mean, Francisco has set the tone so many times in this series. And once again, in this series, he did it where he leads the series off with a homer and then hits a big go-ahead homer late in a game. And that leads us to the number 2 moment of Mets Cubs. Francisco's go-ahead home run in the 8th inning, untying a tie game at the time. His 5th go-ahead home run out of 9 home runs he has hit already. Didn't hit his 9th home run last year until May 30th. He finished with 33 home runs. Francisco could break his own personal career high for home runs in a season. I don't know, Vito. We could be looking at him pushing 40.
And only 6 or 7 guys in Major League Baseball history have hit a leadoff home run and a walk-off home run in the same game. This year, Francisco Lindor going to be the next one to do it.
All right.
That's my prediction, and we'll go back to that when it happens. But the number 1 moment of Mets Cubs, happy mothers out there. Because if it's Mother's Day, we're going to see Brandon Nimmo hit a clutch late inning home run. Brandon Nimmo puts the Mets ahead for good. 2-run shot. Our guest of the podcast, which means he has to come on again.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know if you remember this. Back in the day, 06, 07, in that era, the Mets played the Brewers on Mother's Day a couple times. Bill Hall, who once was a 30 home run man for the Brewers, I think he had 2 walk-off home runs on Mother's Day. And I always, growing up, was like, oh, Mother's Day is Bill Hall's day. Well, it's now becoming Brandon Nimmo's holiday. You mentioned it last year on Mother's Day. And on Sunday this year, another nationally televised ball game. Brandon with another 2-run home run. By the way, kind of in the same area of the ballpark, to right field with the pink bat. Now, Brandon's wife, Chelsea, is a mother, so they get to celebrate their first Mother's Day.
Little baby Tatum.
Little baby Tatum after Brandon hits a big home run, like you mentioned, gives the Mets the lead. Brandon now up to 8 home runs on the season as well. Saw some comments on our last episode. Brandon Nimmo could also be a 30 home run guy who some predicted before the season could be Brandon Nimmo's first 30 home run season. Could have been anybody. And he is on pace. So huge day for Brandon. And before the series got started, we had the chance to spend some really quality time with Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah, we got to sit with Brandon Nimmo right before game 1 of this series. And this is probably the longest interview we've done with anybody on the team.
I'll tell you why. Because Brandon can chat, boy.
Brandon doesn't give you short answers.
Brandon can chat.
Look, I'm not, you can go back and look at some of our interviews. There's guys who they'll talk and sometimes like you think that they're going to keep going and then they just stop. Now, Brandon Nimmo is going to give you everything you want and more. And then the interview is going to stop and then he's going to talk to you some more.
Nah, Brandon's the best. And, he got the start on Sunday against Matt Boyd. And it's because of how good he is against left-handed pitching. And that's such not a crutch, but a boon for Carlos Mendoza when he's filling out his lineup card. He doesn't have to worry about sheltering his right fielder or his left fielder based on the platoon splits. We know Juan Soto is dominant righty-lefty. Brandon Nimmo, the last couple years, one of the best left-handed hitters against left-handed pitching, entered the day with an OPS over 900 against lefties this season. Like he in the run against Porter Hodge, flame-throwing Cubs reliever in the 8th inning, gives the Mets the insurance that they need as they go on and win this ball game 6-2. But another big weekend for Brandon Nimmo, who just continues to be another piece of a very, very deep, very, very tough lineup to navigate. You think about it, once you get past the trio of Soto, Lindor, Soto, Alonso, then you got to get through Nimmo and a Baty or Vientos, and then an Alvarez who had 2 hits off the bench today. McNeil, who, by the way, we didn't shout out, Jeff McNeil on Saturday.
Yes.
The 10-pitch plate appearance that he drew a walk came about 6 inches shy from a double that would have put him as the tying run in scoring position. What a plate appearance for Jeff, coming off the bench and facing a flame-throwing reliever. And just what a plate appearance. Obviously, it didn't work out, but got to shout out Jeff. But this lineup, man, it's a problem for the other team. Sucks for them. Sucks for you guys. Good for us.
All right, guys, enjoy this interview with Brandon Nimmo. We're going to come back on the other end of this, wrap things up. But here's an interview with Brandon Nimmo of the New York Mets. Welcome to Meet at the Apple, presented by PC Richard & Son. I'm Vito Calisi. That's Jonathan Barron. We're here with Brandon Nimmo. And Brandon, you've been here longer than anybody else on the team. This year is different because you've seen a lot of Citi Fields, but you've never seen a Citi Field that has sellouts be a casual thing in April and May.
Yeah.
What's it like to have that playoff atmosphere so quick in a season?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I think Steve went out and did his job this offseason of bringing, obviously Juan Soto, among many other free agents to the park. And he kind of asked like, okay, so now, fans, I've done what you've asked, like, come on out, and support. And they answered the call and have been out, and we've been putting on a great show at home. Couldn't do it without them. I mean, this just shows how important the support is. I think is our home record, obviously up to this point, has been outstanding, and I think it just shows how much we vibe off of them, and how much their support means to us. So for me to see this come full circle, it's been a heck of a process, and I've learned a lot through it, but to be able to experience Citi Field this early in like you said, in playoff atmosphere, it's been awesome, and we've been feeding off of it, and the home record has definitely shown that.
So tons of great moments at home, like Vito mentioned. You robbed Jordan Walker. That was a great moment back on April 20th. But I want to talk about a day that was not here at Citi Field.
Yeah.
Your record-setting day.
Yeah.
In Washington, D.C., you tied the Mets club record with 9 RBI in a game.
Yep.
So walk us through that day. First off, you wake up. Did you have the normal breakfast? Was something different that day? What happened there?
Yeah. Normal breakfast.
Okay.
Normally try and have something like avocado toast.
Healthy. Nice.
With a matcha and some apple juice. And then just a normal day. Getting to the ballpark, going through the normal routine. Did nothing out of the ordinary that day, and that's just the funny part about baseball is you never know what day can be the greatest, and which day can be the worst. They all seem so benign, right? Right before, and so go out there, and our plan is just we have a plan against Williams, and we're going out there to just try and win a ball game, and was able to get a hit with runner in scoring position right away, first at bat. Hit a slider out over the plate, and Swaggy V had to hold up just a little bit. Otherwise, maybe we would have gotten there, to the 10 ribbies. But he did. He made the right play. I mean, I hit this piss rocket right over the shortstop, and
is that industry term, piss rocket?
Yeah, it is. That's a baseball term.
Baseball one. That's a baseballism. Baseball guy.
and it went right over his glove, and so Swaggy's held up and made sure it went by, and then it was pretty normal after that point. I mean, we were doing well, but then it just exploded. I think it was like 6, 7, 8. We were able to come up. They brought in Shea for me, and I got a fastball up and was just trying to do a job and get the runner in. And it happened to go into the seats, and I was like, all right, sweet. This is great. Kind of broke the game open for us. And then, I ended up coming up with, I think it was like Henry, I believe, was the next guy. And, come up, bases loaded. Swaggy V has another great at-bat in front of me. And really, that's what it was led by, was a bunch of great at-bats of guys not trying to do too much in front of me. And it ended up with me coming up with, 2 guys on, bases loaded, and then bases loaded again. And again, I'm trying to not do too much there and just get the job done, and end up hitting a grand slam, on the first pitch. And so then I'm like, man, that's, really cool. This is a great day. We're doing great. We're well on our way to a win. And I come up again, bases loaded, and I was just like, all right, just try and not do too much again. And, was able to take actually a pretty good pitch and pull it down the line for a double.
At that point, did you know that you had tied the Mets record?
No, I had no idea.
Okay.
I had no idea. I knew, Rantuan came up to me at second base. He goes, dang, 9 RBI, that's got to be a career high, right? And I said, yeah, that's a career high. Like, the one that I had known of before that was 5. So I was like, I passed that, on the last swing. So, I was like, it was already a great day for me at that point. But we had no clue. I had no clue. And then came up, obviously, Swaggy V, hits the home run.
Yes. Did you talk to him about that, by the way?
I didn't talk to him because
Okay.
I was happy before him. You know, everybody's got to get theirs, and he had another. You know, he did great.
Everybody's eating.
Yeah, everybody's eating. You know, and those are great days. But it's just a funny thing because I don't think I've ever, and we could check this, but I to my knowledge, I don't know if I've gotten a hit off a position player in my career. And so I'm coming up there and I'm like, oh man, I'm Meds, pitching, and I'd obviously been teammates with Rosie, and so I was like, all right, just try not do too much. I tried to watch the first one, and I'm like, at that point, just trying to get a base hit. I had no idea about the RBI record or anything, but I did think, when I was on deck, I was like, oh man, if Swaggy V gets on right here, like come up, it'd be really cool to get the double-digit RBIs.
Then he hits a home run.
But when he hit the home run, I wasn't thinking like, hey, okay, try and hit a home run here, because literally, I don't know if I've gotten a hit off a position player. So I literally was trying to think, just try and get a base hit. Let's see what we can do, and I wasn't able to do it. But then they told me after the game, hey, you tied the franchise record for RBIs, and I was like, man, that's awesome. I had no idea, and honestly I would prefer it that way. I'd prefer to just play the game and just go out there and let it happen naturally, and just come up in the situations. And that, like I said, I was trying to not do too much in all those situations. So it was a really, really cool day. One, obviously, we'll never forget. But those kind of days, they don't come around that often, and so you just soak them up while you can.
So we're talking about a day like that where the success was crazy. And when you look at your numbers, I feel like it's pretty surprising the success hasn't been at that level, because you look at your hard hit rate this year.
You're telling me.
Percentile.
Yeah, you're telling me.
So in a season like that where the results aren't what they should be, and the results aren't what your numbers are showing, how do you stay positive, and how do you keep your approach, or kind of change your approach in the situation?
I think you trust that the process over 7 months will finally start to turn for you. And so you take the positives from it. If there's any thing that you can work on, you can say, okay, this could be a little bit better. Then I think you try and work on that while keeping what you've been doing well. And the only way to stay sane through it, honestly, has been past experience with it. Even last year started off very similar to this. And that has helped me a little bit in seeing I'll watch the video and we'll play somebody around the same time, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, very similar numbers. And, it ended up being okay. And I honestly probably would have told you that I had the best first half of my life last year, and by late April to early May, it didn't look that great, and so there's definitely you have this past experience of telling you it takes a long time to have a good season, and so if you keep the process going, you should get the results that you're looking for by the end of the year. But knowing that not all of that is going to be returned, and so some of it's just bad luck, some of it, but to keep pushing forward, to keep trying to have productive at bats, and you will come through and have these kind of it ended up having that game, and I've had a few good games mixed in there, with some bad luck mixed in there as well. And so just having that experience of, okay, it's kind of happened before. It's not the end of the world. If the numbers that matter are saying you're doing the process right, and you rely on that to just keep plugging forward. Try and work on anything that you feel like is a little bit under the weather. But like you said, there's a lot of numbers that are pointing to, okay, you're on the right track, and you unfortunately you just have to trust that process. Baseball is a funny game, and it doesn't always work out the way that you think it's supposed to. But I do have a feeling that in the end it's going to work out.
This is actually something that we noticed last year before the turnaround, that the Mets were, I think, top 5 in hard hit rate and bottom 5 in team batting average, but the XBA was really high.
Yeah.
And obviously the process continued, and we know the rest of the story.
Exactly.
And we talked with you about this time last year, and you told us the philosophy of the lineup. And that was keep cracking the dam, keep trying to put cracks in the dam. Let's never give away at-bats. Even if we're down 10 runs, let's make them get into their bullpen and use their best relievers. So tomorrow, we have an advantage.
100%.
Different team this year, some new faces. Guys like Juan, Soto, nice additions.
Nice addition.
As a leader of this team, from your vantage point, how does this lineup compare? Are you guys doing the same thing? What's changed from last year? What's the same from last year?
I think it is very similar, and it's a very similar mindset. It's just you have young guys who have another year under their belt and now understand even more so how to put the pressure on a pitcher and how to, put the cracks in the dam, along with adding a perennial, all-star. Probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, Juan Soto right in the middle of it, along with a Pete Alonso that, I this is the best that I've ever seen him since 2019. So yeah. So for me, throwing those two right in the middle of your lineup and then adding a year to some of your younger guys and having them be even more mature in their approaches has really helped, our lineup to be super long. So even though Pete and Juan have been getting it done, you still have the rest of the lineup that is really dangerous to pitch to and can get you at any moment. Mm-hmm. And when you have that long of a lineup and you have that mentality of it doesn't matter, I'm going to go up there, I'm not going to give this at bat away, and I'm going to have a plan. When you have that, it's really tough to navigate a lineup like that. And so I think you've seen, really good offensive output from, usually a place that honestly, it's usually tough to score runs in New York early on. And you've been able to see good output from this offense because of that. So I honestly think that, it's a combination of talent and that approach that you've seen added to this lineup. But it's definitely produced some results early.
Yeah, you mentioned Pete, and we chatted with you, I think, right around the time he re-signed in spring training. And you guys obviously have such a close relationship. Yeah. You guys go way back.
Yep.
From your vantage point on Pete, you said it's the best you've seen him since 2019, obviously a historic season in 2019.
Right.
What differences are you seeing in Pete?
Well, in his preparation, he's really, really focused on body control and balance. And I think personally that has helped his decision-making process. He's been working on, all of us, in fact, have kind of jumped in on this eye training that we've been doing. And I think how you perceive the game is a huge part of baseball, right? We use our eyes for everything. And I think it's something that's fell to the wayside a little bit. We're all in on that now. And most of us, 75%, I would say. And then you couple that with great body control and balance, and I think you get what you're getting here at the beginning of the season. People don't realize how small of a difference it is between a check swing and holding it back, and to be ready to go all the time, but to not fully pull the trigger is sometimes the difference between winning and losing an at bat. And what I see from Pete right now is the ability to hold back his swing, but always be ready. And so it's he's ready 100% of the time, but when he gets that pitch, it just finally releases. And when he doesn't, he's able to hold it back. And when he hits like that and he stays in the zone, I mean, there's really no one better, because you can put it a ball off the plate and he'll still hit it 114 miles an hour. It's
opening
pretty,
day against the Blue Jays.
Exactly. It's pretty incredible to watch. And so when you're able to have a guy like that stay in the zone and be patient, but always be ready, it's really dangerous. And that's what I see from him.
Now, why don't you tell us a little about Luis Angel Acuña and what you've seen from him this year? Because last year he comes up at the end of the year in a humongous spot. He has to fill the role of Francisco Lindor, who was on an absolute tear, right?
Play shortstop, yeah.
And then this year, he gets called up, and it's just been again a spark plug. And John and I have said this a lot on the podcast. For us grown-up fans of the team, it feels a lot like when we used to watch Jose Reyes just running on the base paths and just really taking command of the game there.
100%.
What have you seen from him and just conversations with him?
So he's one of the guys that when I mentioned, another year of maturity underneath the belt, I think, he's a perfect example of that. He got his taste of the big leagues and what it takes up here last year, and really took that and ran with it this offseason. Had an amazing offseason and just took it into this season and hasn't missed a beat. His speed is a huge part of his game, and it plays, into everything that he does. He doesn't have to, hit home runs, and he doesn't have to do any of that, because if he just places the ball well, he can get a double. If he just gets on base, he can turn that into a double, maybe even a triple, just like that, by stealing second, by stealing third. So he can think really small and then just let the game happen for him. If he happens to hit the ball in the air and hit a double, then great. Maybe a triple, like great. But his goal every time he gets up on base or at that plate is to just get on base, because then I can steal second and I can steal third, at least steal second and get into runners in scoring position. So I think the combination of his speed, the way that he understands the game, and having Antoine at first base and helping him to understand what he's looking for, I think it's been, a match made in heaven, honestly, and, couldn't be happier for him and the success that he's had early. He's huge reason as to why we have the record that we have. And I agree with you. I think he's a spark plug that has many, many years of success ahead of him.
This is like the third or fourth time we've done the podcast with you, and every time we post an episode with you, people write the same thing, and it's years in the future when Brandon's career is in the past. He's perfect for the booth. And like sitting here and talking to you, is that something you've ever thought about? Because like listening to you talk about baseball, it is enthralling. Like
your buddy D Murph did it.
Murph did do it. It's something I've thought about. I wouldn't be opposed to it after I'm done. I like to think that, I can express the game in a way that most people can understand, but also give you a behind the scenes of what's really going on at a big league level. Because honestly, I was surprised when I got to the big league level as to how much information and how much goes into every decision that is made, and that's the beauty of baseball up here. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that I've thought about. We'll go down that road when we get there. Right now, I'm concerned with winning the World Series and having that name, etched into Mets history. On a World Series trophy and
banner.
That
seems like the resume you need going into that booth, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It does. So, no, definitely something I would be open to, because I enjoy the game so much, and it's given me so much. But gosh, it's just fun to see everything that goes behind what happens out there, because it's more than just, see ball, hit ball, and, just kind of get a lead and hopefully take off. Like there's so much going on behind the scenes, and I love for people to be opened up to that.
All right, so we'll put you to the test right now. Vito and I talk about this a lot. Home runs, easy to break down. Extra base hits, easy. Strikeouts, everyone sees it.
Yep.
The little things that you guys are doing right now to help you win ball games.
Yeah.
Defensively. Mm-hmm. Taking away outs from the other team.
Yeah.
We talked about Luis Angel Acuña and his base running, but it's not just him. It's the entire team.
Yeah.
Being aggressive. Make the other team make a good play. You guys are one of the best base running teams in all of baseball.
Yeah.
The little things that you're doing, what is the philosophy? What's being spoken about in meetings? Coaches, the manager, you guys amongst yourselves, doing all these little things that really separate you from the competition.
I think what motivates that is knowing that there's a target on our back every single time we go and play. Doesn't matter who we play, whether it's the Pirates, the Marlins, or the Dodgers.
Got the Pirates coming up.
Yep. That they want to beat us because we're, the big bad Mets now, us and the Dodgers. We spend all this money, we buy our team, all that, and people have a...
It's not even true, by the way. I mean, homegrown right here. Pete Alonso homegrown. Acuña homegrown. Right. Vientos homegrown. You go down the list.
Right.
I need to you don't understand how weird it is for us to hear that about the Mets.
Yeah, right. Well, that's how things have changed
this
now.
used to be we would, to Yankee fans in school. You guys bought your rings.
100%.
You buy all your players.
Yeah. Oh, anybody can.
But it's not true about the Mets. It's not true about the Mets.
Exactly. No, I know. But that's the way it's perceived, and everybody has a chip on their shoulder that, okay, let's show them that we can beat them, and that it doesn't matter how much money you spend, like we'll still take you down. I used to be in that position. We would go take on the Dodgers, or we would go take on the Yankees, and it feels good when you beat those teams. And so being on the other side of it, I know there's a target on our back. And so when we met later in spring, but right before the season, with the group, we made that a point of emphasis to say, there's going to be a target on our back each and every game. And we're going to have to come ready to play every single time. A game, there are no days off. There is no, okay, we're playing, the Pirates or we're playing the Marlins and this should be a little bit easier. It doesn't happen for us. And so therefore, we're going to have to do the little things right at each and every time because they're going to push the envelope and they're going to try and take extra risks, and we're gonna have to take advantage of that and be able to, from our catching standpoint, our catchers have been unbelievable in knocking down the base runners, right? Tyrone in center field has been unbelievable, making diving plays, throwing guys out. It's been incredible. I can go down the line, obviously Acuña, Lindor, Vientos, Pete over there picking everything.
So underrated, dude. He's the best in baseball at scooping balls out of the dirt.
It's unbelievable. He's so good at it, and like you said, it's underrated. And robbing home runs and Juan Soto throwing guys out at the plate. Like these are all not little, but they're all things that amount to winning the game by one run at the end of the day, And when we go out there and we're going to get everybody's A effort, we have to do the little things right. And if we don't, we're going to get beat. So that's essentially the conversation that we had, the emphasis that was put on doing the little things right. Doesn't mean that we're going to do it right every single time. You're going to have mental mistakes. You're going to have some physical mistakes, but the intent should be there each and every day.
So last time we spoke to you, we brought up my favorite moment of last year, my favorite moment of yours last year, the Sassy Nimmo tongue out. We posted that clip online. I don't know if you saw. Michael Harris responded.
Did he? Oh, what did he say?
Michael Harris responded, said, "I love this. I want to see more of this. It's good for baseball."
That's great.
Just like, what's your do you agree? Like, isn't that what makes the game fun?
It is good. It is good for baseball. Competition, right? Having the want and the will to win is one thing. But what are you going to do about it, right? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do in the little times, like in the off season? How hard are you going to work? And that's when you get to go out and you get to enjoy the spoils of war, right, or whatever. Like you go out, you compete against somebody, and when you overcome, you get to have fun. You get to celebrate. You get to win. And I do think it's good for baseball. I think the competition, between us and the Braves, the Phillies, the Dodgers. I think it's really good for baseball when you get these heavyweights come up against each other and show some emotion, because that's what people want to see now. I mean, we always reference 86 Mets and they would go out and they would fight, and they would go out and they would show all this emotion, and it didn't really matter. Like the game was what it was, but what people loved was the emotion and the bought in, how much everyone cared about that, right? And people want to see when they watch the game, they want to see that the players that they're rooting for, the team that they're rooting for, cares about this game. And when you care deeply about it, emotion is going to show up. And I do think it's good for the game. And I would totally agree with Michael Harris. And hey, I mean, when they went up on us, he was doing his thing, and he was kind of in their dugout, they were mocking what we did, and that was one of the most entertaining games of the year, I think. Yeah. And it was one of the most intense games and one of the best games that I'd ever played. And it was right at the end of the year, going into playoffs. It was exactly what we needed, exactly what both teams needed. It was exactly what baseball needed, and I think it's great for the game. And so there'll be a lot more of it to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, you mentioned brawls. I mean, not that I'm trying to incite any violence here, but the Mets have not had a true a true brouhaha.
That's true.
I know you've been to some Islander games, and you like hockey, but I'm just saying it's been a while.
It has been. I almost wonder if this has kind of substituted that a little bit, because even when I first came up into the league, you weren't really allowed to show up much, right?
Yeah,
no bat flips.
There was no bat flips. There was no. I mean, I even remember who was it, D-Row, I think, I was smiling after I hit a home run, and he's like, this guy, he should act like he's been there before,
Come on, D-Row.
No, he apologized for it the next year.
He
did, but that's the way things were, and I almost feel like emotion is now allowed in the game and bat flips and all that. So almost so that like brawls don't happen as much.
Right.
Now.
It's like normalized now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, let's not have guys go fist fight on the field, even though it still happens every now and again, right? There's obviously some lines that get crossed and whatnot.
Yeah, Scooble and Zach Neto had a little thing.
Yeah,
recently.
100%, 100%. But you rarely see the all out, like we said, like 86, like fists, going, or even like, Jose Batista.
And Odor.
Yeah.
Oh,
Renaissance
man.
painting photo.
Yeah, 100%.
Man.
You don't see that as much now. And I think it's because guys are allowed to show that emotion and to put that emotion out on the field a little bit more. And so it's not maybe pent up as much. There's not some stuff happening behind the scenes that nobody knows about. Like, it's out there. Emotion is happening on the game, and it's great. So, I think that might be kind of what has flipped in that a little bit.
Makes sense. Real quick, the beard.
Yeah.
Was a new feature. You came into spring training with it. We talked to you about it. It's obviously still here.
Yep.
Is this? Are we planning on keeping this throughout the season, or and what's the treatment like? Use some oil.
Yeah.
It does look clean.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. A little bit of oil, a little beard oil on there.
A little trim every now and again.
Yeah, a little 1000%. You got a little out of control there for a bit, but no, I honestly, I have no plans of trimming it now. Things are going well. We're winning ball games and everything, and so I don't have any reason to change it right now, especially with this weather that we've got going on right now. But
it's practical. It keeps you warm.
Exactly. But we'll see come summertime. If I can deal with it with the 90, 95 degree heat and the humidity. As of right now, I have no plans to get rid of it, but just keep trying to take care of it. Trim it up a little bit. Use some beard oil. Yeah.
John was bringing up the fights with the 86 Mets, so I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
This was all over Twitter a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the gorilla argument.
Oh, yeah, I did.
All right,
I did
so the question is 100 men versus one gorilla.
Yeah.
What's your take on it? Can 100 man beat up a gorilla?
So my take originally was there's no way 100 men could beat up, could take down one gorilla. But there was some that have gone into the science of it and how tired a gorilla would get after I
think they have a 90-second burst or something like that.
Yeah. So it's
and then how long is the recharge period?
He would.
They kind of just fall.
I mean, I think I was at first I was like, you know what? There's no way. There's no way that 100 men could take on one gorilla. But if 50 of the men are willing to just straight up get destroyed, then okay, the other 50 they might have a shot when he gets tired.
Because my point is, if 99 are gone,
right,
and one is still standing, then the 100 men still won.
But the one argument that I have is that we are not at the top of the food chain because of our physical abilities.
True.
So if you were to take
what's up here?
If you were to take all the tools out of it and all the you're in a cage. There's no you can't break a branch off and use it as a spear or anything like that. Nothing. If that's the case, we are completely inferior to a silverback gorilla. So for me, I'm we would have to outthink it, and in that situation, it would be tough. You would lose a lot of people. Maybe you were able to get that one. You'd need 2 people for each arm and 2 people for each leg holding him down. Somebody's got to be able to somehow get through that thick neck and be able to choke him out, and
no
it's got to be. It would be one of those things where I would think it'd be pretty much 99% impossible, but there obviously is a chance when he runs out of energy. But we are at the top of the food chain because of our ability to use tools, our ability to think, our minds, not our physical abilities. We are near the bottom to the, maybe we're in the middle of the food chain.
Have you guys talked about this on the plane?
Oh, 100%. It's been talked about for 10 days. For 10 days.
How online is the team? How online on social media? I know some guys turn it off, but
there's a good amount of guys that are online. I had no idea that it was an online thing when it was first brought up. And then I was like, oh, okay, here's all these things that are talking about it. But there's I'd say a good 50 to 60% of the guys are online
the
and
TikTok
pay
trends,
attention.
the Twitter trends, and everything like that.
Yeah, they pay attention.
How is the clubhouse leaning with the debate?
I would say it's almost split. I would say there's a lot of guys that believe that the 100 men would win, no doubt.
Where does Pete stand?
Pete thinks that the 100 men would win.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, 100%.
I had a feeling about that
him
one.
and Jesse are completely bought in on the guys that are destroying them. And you know, there's definitely a few of us that are like, yeah, there's a reason, you know.
Has Mendy been brought into the conversation?
I don't know. Mendy hasn't been brought into it. I'll ask him. I'll see what he has to say.
Ask him and then let us know.
All right.
We're coming up on Chelsea's first Mother's Day.
Yes.
Your first Father's Day.
Yep.
How excited are you for those two?
Just so excited for a little article came out
Anthony
today.
saw that, yeah.
You know, thank you to Anthony for writing that. You know, it's just something where she gets to be praised for what she's been doing behind the scenes, which has been a lot. She's basically been a single mother this last 7 weeks, and you know, when I'm on the road, like it's all her, and she's just been amazing with Tatum. I mean, she takes care of every little thing that she needs, and she does it with such a smile on her face. And there's no question it is one of the hardest things to do in life, is to be a mother and to take care of your children. But one of the most rewarding things, I watch her and see how, you know, how much joy Tatum brings to her, and you know, all the interaction that she gets. It's been amazing. I'm so glad that we get to, you know, honor her and have a day for her, because she more than deserves it, and she's taken to it like a fish to water. She's been a rock star through it all. So it's been really, really awesome to see her become a mother, and she couldn't be better at it.
So, you know, you guys, when you were in St. Louis, right? Tough series. We talk about it. We always recap.
Yep.
And if you're online, you see some Met fans have a little hard time dealing with a loss. And it's a long season. You're going to lose some games. You're going to win some games.
Yeah, 100%.
So this is a bit of a PSA.
Okay.
You know, we try to calm the people down, but you're in the lineup, you're on the plane, you're in the dugout, you're in the field. So Brandon Nimmo is going to tell you guys, when you guys suffer a tough loss, annoying loss, like that Cardinals, I mean, those were annoying losses.
Yeah,
1-run games.
100%.
Ball, the amount of balls hit over 100.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Goes back to the first topic.
Yeah, 100%.
How do you guys handle it? What's the conversation like?
You have like a 30-minute, 40-minute period after the game where it sucks. You know, you're just like, okay, you know, you're going over your head. What could I have done? All the situations, this, that. And then honestly, it's you have to go to like that Ted Lasso saying, and you gotta like be a goldfish. You know, you just gotta try and forget it, move on, and know that you got a game the next day. And it's one of the hardest things to do, because we're so competitive and we want to win every single game, and we look back and we say, well, you know, maybe this, maybe that. But the best thing, and as you mature, the best thing that you can learn to do is to just forget it and move on. Like, you learn from your mistakes, you try and take that time and you say, okay, so I'm not going to let this happen again. You know, if I get that situation again, this is how I'm going to do it, whatever. And then you flush it and move on, and you take that experience and you learn from it. But you know that there's another game tomorrow that you have to be prepared for, a totally different team. In that situation, you know, swept doubleheader. Well, we've got a totally new team tomorrow in a totally new location, and we've got to be ready for them. And when you do that, it just allows you to be able to move on from the situation. You know, so you allow yourself a little bit of time afterwards, but then you have to forget about it and you have to move on. And that's honestly the only way that you're going to get through 7 months of it sane. You know, it's because it's frustrating. That doubleheader was extremely frustrating to all of us. You know, any one of those 100 mile an hour, 106 mile an hour, 111 mile an hour balls
gone in 30 out of 30
if they
parks.
end up, you know, getting out, or they end up getting down, then the game's completely different. And when you realize that and you go, okay, all right, that's it, move on. You know, the process was right. Here we go. You know, or if there was a situation that comes up, process was wrong. Here's what I'm going to do next time, and you move on from it. And that's honestly the best thing that you can do to stay sane over 7 months of this, and realizing that it takes a long time to have a good season. You've got to do it over and over again.
You guys heard it from the man himself. Thank you very much, Mr. Brandon Nimmo.
And not only was that great, in a 1 minute period, Brandon Nimmo, you found Nimmo made 2 different fish references.
Water to fish and goldfish.
Fish to water and goldfish.
Yeah, man, that's pretty good.
Remember when we played the game with you the first time we interviewed you?
Yes,
we
with
finished
the
line?
Finding Nemo. Yeah.
I'm gonna touch the.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to touch the butt.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
All right, Brandon, thanks so
Love
much
it.
for joining us. You can follow this podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to rate, subscribe, listen. I'm on Twitter at VitoF Khaleesi, John at JMB9191. And then Brandon Nimmo, he said emphatically at the end of so many games last year, you got to get to Citi Field. You got to support the Mets.
Yep.
See you guys here.
Before we wrap up, a quick reminder to head to your local PC Richard & Son this week. They're local, they're family-owned, and they are guaranteed to have not just the lowest prices, but friendly and knowledgeable salespeople.
For appliances, TVs, electronics, and mattresses, get to PC Richard & Son, the company you can trust since 1909. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time at the Apple.